In 2023, Jake Haro stood before a judge, pleading guilty to willful child cruelty. His 10-week-old daughter, Carolina, had suffered horrific injuries: fractured skull, damaged spine, multiple broken bones. Yet, despite the severity, the judge suspended his prison sentence, granting him probation and a mere 180 days of work release. Carolina is now permanently bedridden, her life forever altered. And Jake Haro? He walked free. 7 months later, his son Emmanuel Haro was found dead. Authorities believe he died from abuse before his parents falsely reported him missing. Now both parents face murder charges. But here's the question. What happens when someone who has already harmed a child is set free? If you believe in justice and protecting the innocent, hit that subscribe button. Don't let this story be forgotten. Share this video. Let the world know we won't stand by while children suffer. Comment below. What do you think should happen to those who harm the most vulnerable among us? Turn on notifications. Stay informed about cases that demand our attention. Join the conversation. Your voice matters in the fight for justice. Before Emmanuel Haro, there was Carolina. Just weeks old, she endured unimaginable abuse at the hands of Jake Haro and his ex-wife. Fractured ribs, a partial skull fracture, brain hemorrhage, swelling in the neck, and a fractured tibia. Injuries so severe that she would be left permanently bedridden, living with cerebral palsy. The system should have protected her. Yet, despite these horrors, Jake Haro was handed probation and a short work release sentence. No prison, no real consequences. And this leniency would set the stage for tragedy for another child, Emmanuel, who would later pay the ultimate price. If you believe children deserve protection, don't just watch, subscribe now. Every missed click, every silent scroll, makes you part of the indifference that lets abuse continue. Comment below if you can't stand the thought of injustice like this happening again. Tell the world why silence isn't an option. Turn on notifications. Be the first to hear when the truth comes out. Share this story. Stand with those who cannot speak for themselves. The warning signs were clear. The evidence was undeniable. Yet when Jake Haro appeared before a visiting judge in Riverside County, the system failed once again. Instead of prison, he was given probation and a mere 180 days of work release, a decision that stunned prosecutors who had called it a prison case. This was not leniency, this was a doorway that allowed a proven abuser back into the lives of innocent children. And the consequences would be devastating. Every ignored warning, every lenient sentence, is a risk a child shouldn't have to pay. Emmanuel's fate was shaped long before his life began. A tragic proof of what happens when warnings are dismissed. If you cannot stomach the thought of justice denied, subscribe now. Do not let silence let another child slip through the cracks. Comment below if you've ever felt powerless watching the system fail. Your voice matters and silence is complicity. Turn on notifications. Share this story. Every child deserves a defender, and that starts with you. Emmanuel Haro, just 7 months old. Fragile, innocent, completely dependent on the very people sworn to protect him. His parents, Jake and Rebecca Haro. But this was no ordinary household. Danger had already shown its face. Jake Haro's history of abuse was not a secret. It was written in court documents, in broken bones, in a child left permanently disabled. And yet, the system allowed him to remain free. For Emmanuel, that freedom came with a deadly cost. Every laugh, every cry, every tiny breath of life was shadowed by a threat that should never have existed. If your heart can bear it, subscribe now. Watch, learn, bear witness, because turning away is exactly what allowed Emmanuel to fall victim. And if you can't subscribe, comment below. Tell the world why ignoring the warning signs is acceptable to you. Your silence has consequences. Emmanuel Haro's life was measured in days, not years. From August 5th to the 14th, every moment of his fragile existence was stolen by neglect, by warnings ignored, by a system that failed to act. Even as the community prayed, searched, and shared his image across social media, the truth was far darker than anyone could imagine. His parents, entrusted to protect him, were already scripting a story of abduction, a lie to hide the unspeakable reality. Emmanuel was already gone. Imagine the anguish of neighbors, friends, strangers, all mobilized in hope, while the child they sought had no chance of returning. If this chills you to the bone, subscribe now. Be part of a community that refuses to let silence bury the innocent. And if you won't subscribe, then comment. Explain why you would turn away while a life so small, so helpless was lost. Because every skipped action is another failure waiting to happen. As the days passed, investigators began to see cracks in the story Rebecca Haro told the world. Every word, every detail was scrutinized, and the picture that emerged was chilling. Surveillance footage, forensic evidence, and witness interviews painted a reality far darker than the staged kidnapping. The frantic search that had captured hearts online was now shadowed by suspicion. What had begun as a desperate plea for a missing baby was twisting into a horrifying investigation. A murder case. If your heart is racing, don't just watch, subscribe. Stand against the silence that allows tragedy to repeat. And if you refuse to subscribe, leave a comment. Tell the world why a child's death and the unraveling of truth isn't enough to compel your action. Every ignored voice is another failure waiting to happen. The moment of truth shattered everything. Jake Haro, the father who should have protected his child, confessed. He admitted to taking the life of Emmanuel, a baby no older than 7 months. Behind him, Rebecca Haro's carefully crafted story unraveled. Her pleas for help, her tearful interviews, all now revealed as a manipulation, a cover for an unspeakable crime. The images linger in the mind. An empty crib, toys left abandoned, a life stolen before it even began. Ask yourself, can you watch this and do nothing? If you haven't subscribed, do it now. Stand against silence, against the betrayal of innocence. And if you choose not to subscribe, leave a comment. Explain why the murder of a helpless child, exposed by truth, doesn't demand your voice. Every skipped action lets horror go unchallenged.